Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into softball at the college level. My guest today is Angie Nicholson. She is the head softball coach at Hampton University. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
Well, I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland, and I ended up being recruited and going to Cleveland State, which was about 20 minutes from my hometown.
Okay. So let's just go back in time a little before we get started where you are today. In high school, when did you start thinking about going to college and actually playing softball at the college level? Was it freshman year of high school? Was it senior year of high school? When did it all start for you?
Well, times were very different back then. So, I didn't start playing softball until I was about 15. I didn't really know much about softball. I played baseball growing up. So I was raised by a father and I had two brothers. And so I didn't even know what softball was. And then one day I was getting ready to enter my freshman year. And somebody came up and saw me and he asked me if I would play for his travel softball team. So I said yes, and kind of asked him some questions what that meant, because I knew going into high school that I was going to have to transition into softball, and again, didn't know really much about it, but so I decided to play with him, and I ended up playing on an 18U travel ball team. It was a local team. He kind of gathered kids from all over, and I ended up playing with him. And so that's when I started really playing the game of softball. I was a middle infielder, and ended up transitioning into catcher, because in high school nobody could handle the kid that was pitching, who ended up becoming my best friend. So I just became I caught for 4 years in high school and was an all-state catcher. Again, didn't really know much about the whole college thing. I knew I wanted to go to college, but again, times were different then. Recruiting was through VHS tapes and things like that, and going to camps, and I started to see college coaches around my travel ball games, and I saw and heard them asking about me, and so
was it senior year when it all was happening for you, or was it before then?
It was junior year, and then senior year is when you started like really going and visiting places. So it was just, again, completely different.
Now, did you get recruited by a lot of schools, a lot of different schools?
I did, I decided I really liked it. His name was Tom McLaughlin, who was at Cleveland State at the time. I liked him, and I wanted to stay close to home. I don't know, I didn't want to leave my dad. I was a little worried. I had two younger brothers, and my dad worked really hard, and I wanted to be close to them. So
you went close by. You get to Cleveland State. What's it like? What is college softball and college itself? What's it like as a student athlete?
It was not what I thought. I had a little bit of a different experience. I really liked Coach Tom. He was tough. He was a former Marine. He was really hard on his players in a good way. I came from a tough high school program. Elyria High School is very tough. And I was fine with him, but the older kids really had a hard time with him. And there was just a lot of disrespectful things going on between the coach and the players, not by him, but by the players. And I really didn't like what was taking place. It was really different than what I thought. Mm-hmm. But I go in, and I was recruited as a catcher, ended up playing middle infield my freshman year. at the end of my freshman year, my mom was in the hospital. It was just a really tough freshman year. Lots of adjustments, as a lot of kids have. And I didn't return after my freshman year. I actually stayed home, went to the local JC, went to school, and actually went back and coached at my high school with my former coaches. And I did that for 3 years, if you can imagine. In the meantime, the coach that had recruited me, he got fired and he ended up going somewhere else. And the lady that was the GA my freshman year got the head coaching position. So she reconnected back with me, and she asked me if I would come back. And I came back. So I was actually, I think I was 22 when I went back for my sophomore year. And we actually wrote into the NCAA about some things that had happened my freshman year, and the NCAA granted my entire clock back.
Wow.
So I was 25 as a senior. So I ended up playing all 4 years that I could, and it was awesome.
So now you graduate from Cleveland State. How does one go from there to Hampton University?
Oh, gosh. So I have an elementary education degree, and right away, my dream was to become a middle school teacher and to coach somewhere at the local high school. And that's what I did. I was hired right away, where I did my student teaching, and I taught 7th grade math. And I started applying for positions, and the local junior college was hiring, and I threw my name out there, and I can't believe it, but I got it. That really, truly was, not my intentions, but I got it. And so right away, I was a head coach at a local JC, Cuyahoga Community College, and I was teaching during the day and coaching in the evening, and right out of college. And so I go right into that, and it was kind of crazy. I love teaching, but I found myself during my planning periods and stuff, writing out practice plans for practice and different roster lineups, and I couldn't get my mind off softball. And so I did that, and we ended up finishing, by my 3rd year, we ended up finishing 6th in the nation, and took that local junior college to the World Series, and it was phenomenal. And so I thought, God, I want to be a full-time softball coach. But again, times were different, and how do you do that, and how do you go about it? So I applied at Ursuline College, which was an NAIA school in Ohio, all-girls Catholic school, and I got that. And so I actually had to take 2 positions, and I was a cross-country coach in the fall and a softball coach in the spring. And in my first year, we went from 3 wins they had the previous year to, I took them to regionals in that first year. And so I was like, wow, this is too easy. How do you become a Division I coach? And so I applied, and in that first year, I was only at Ursuline for a year. In my first year, I applied and got the job at Butler University in Indianapolis, and took my family. And at the time, I had 3 kids under the age of 4. And me and my husband moved out to Indianapolis and started the Division I career. So, and I was only there a year, loved it there, but my alma mater, Cleveland State, opened up. And the coach who was there, who was my coach, left and went to Akron University. And I thought, God, this might be my only shot to go home. If I could go home, that would be once in a lifetime experience, to go back to the school that gave me so much. And so I applied, and luckily I got the job, and I was there for 7 years. And it was awesome. I'm the winningest coach in school history there. We broke all kinds of records, offensively, pitching records, lots of things. It was an awesome experience. So went to Eastern Illinois after that, and went to the OVC, was trying to move up into tougher RPI. And the state of Illinois was having a lot of budget issues. It was not good. And I then had a family of 4 children. I was a little worried about financial things and how we were going to survive. And so I started applying and got the job here at Hampton University. So that's how I ended up here.
And how many years you been at Hampton now?
This was my third season. We just finished up.
Great. So let's get into softball at Hampton. What type of kids are you looking for to come and play at Hampton University?
Well, so we just moved into the Big South. So we went from the MEAC to the Big South. And this is our first season. It was a huge jump. Going from the MEAC is one of the probably, if not last, second or third to last conference, to I think the Big South is 13th in the nation. So huge move, huge jump. So we're making a lot of changes. We're looking for a kid with some swagger to her, lots of confidence, high softball IQ, athletic speed. I'm huge on speed. We like to run a lot. So, I mean, that's what we're looking for.
And now, grade-wise, what type of kids do you need grade-wise to get into Hampton University as well?
Well, we're a private institution, but grade-wise, we're not one of those that you got to have a 3.5 and a 28 ACT. I mean, we take the normal NCAA requirements, nothing different, and thankfully, we went from, when I got here at Hampton, we went from like a 2 point, I don't know, it was pretty bad, our overall team GPA, to we've actually gotten it up to a 3.4. I mean, we had all but one kid make Dean's List. So we've raised the bar both academically and athletically.
And that's usually the question that a lot of parents have when they send their kids off to college is they talk about, it's always about the sport and never about academics. What's your take on that particular question that parents always have?
Well, I have done a lot of things in 19 years, and I've had a kid, like back at Cleveland State, we recruited a kid who, she was a phenomenal athlete, struggled in school. I mean, she was on an IEP, lots of things, had test anxiety. I mean, there were lots of issues. And I knew we were going to take a risk on her, but, I always make sure that my staff, my assistants and my academic staff are well aware of what we've got coming in, what are her struggles, what is her past history, and how do we help this kid get her education. And this kid ended up graduating, Dean's List. I mean, she got her degree, did a phenomenal job. So, I mean, of course you want a kid who's got a 4.0 and, has always done great academically, because those are kids you don't have to worry about. They already know what they're doing. But I will take a chance on a kid who has struggled, because there are different reasons for different struggles. And I'm more than willing to work with that kid, knowing that kid is, hopefully going to put in her work and do her due diligence also.
Great. Now, a freshman coming into Hampton University, what can they expect coming onto the softball team? Give me a year's worth. When do they get to school? Is it July, August? How long does it go? Is there a fall season, a spring season? What do they do in the summertime? Give me from when they start to a whole year's worth.
Gotcha. So freshman year, you're probably going to be moving in mid-August. And you'll move in and you'll be at school for about a week, all underclassmen just getting acquainted, doing all the little things that you've got to do. And then everybody else starts to move in. For softball, we can start September 1. So usually practice, lifting, conditioning, everything hits up right away September 1. So you've got a couple weeks to kind of get to know your teammates, get acquainted with things. But once September 1 hits, it's 20 hours. It's 20 hours a week of softball, conditioning, weights, all of those things. So it's a lot real quick. We're allowed an 8-game fall season. So we do that in the fall. And that usually takes us till around the first week of November or end of October. And then we start individuals. And individuals start and you get 8 hours. With the student athlete at that time. And that includes softball, strength and conditioning, speed and agility. And that takes you to Christmas break. Christmas break comes, and you're usually given some type of workout that you are to continue to work on while you're on Christmas break. And then usually the second week of January, you're moving back in, and we are full speed back to 20 hours a week, getting after it, because we're playing that first week of February.
Wow. And
And then you're looking at a 56 game schedule starting that first week of February to that first week of of May. And then hopefully you're in the playoffs and moving on. And summer, we're not allowed to work with them. They're given their summer workouts by the strength and conditioning coach, and then by the coaches and pitching coaches, or whatever. They're given their workouts, but they're on their own for that.
So now, recruiting-wise, is it local recruiting? Do you recruit across the country, the world? How do you find your student athletes?
We're usually across the country. I don't go across the world. I haven't reached out yet across the world, but it's across the country, both local and, we're in California, we're in Texas, we're in Alabama and Georgia and Pennsylvania. We're all over.
And now, a lot of parents always talk about it's not just about high school softball. There should be outside softball. Is that your take at the college level? Do you want to see kids that play AAU softball or a club softball team or something like that?
Oh yeah, it's not. We don't really get to see high school softball. It's not about high school softball really at all. It's definitely club softball.
Okay.
I mean, that's where you're.
Yeah. So what are some of the is there big tournaments that you go to that kids should go to? Is it something that they should look into?
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody knows the big tournaments. You got your local. I mean, it depends on your level. It depends on your travel ball level. It depends on your talent, and where you're playing. And coaches know that. We all know where the big tournaments are. We know where the little local hometown tournaments are. So again, it just depends on what you as a coach are looking for, what the student is looking to do. Hopefully, they're being realistic with themselves. Oh yeah, everybody knows where the big ones are.
And now the roster of the team, is it pretty much like Virginia based? Is it Northeast? Is it the East Coast, the whole country? You got kids from all over the place meshing into your roster?
Yeah, we're all over. We've got, just trying to think of my freshman class coming in right now. We got a few Virginia kids. We got New Jersey. We've got Ohio. We've got California. We've got Georgia. So it's all over.
Now, how about pitching wise? What speed does a college look for pitching for softball?
I think if you're asking for the dream pitcher, you're looking at upper 60s, lower 70s. But mid 60s is what you'd like. But at the end of the day, you're also looking at more of how are they spinning the ball? Are they moving the ball? Are they understanding how to set up and mix speeds? So, I mean, there's a lot involved besides just speed, for sure.
And what type of character are you looking for your athletes? Is it a particular character? They all have to be that aggressive type, or do you have some nonchalant type kids on the team as well?
Yeah. I mean, I love a confident kid, and I love to see a kid that walks around with that confidence and that swagger. There's no doubt about it. And there's a fine line between cocky and confident, for sure. But I like an independent kid, a kid who, isn't looking for mom and dad to carry the bag, and, they're respectful towards their teammates and their coaches, and definitely their family and their parents. And you can see that real quick, just watching a game, and how they, when they come out of the dugout, where they're walking, who's coming to get them, or who they're walking to, or, if they're just independent and taking care of themselves and more worried about themselves and their teammates.
Now, do you look for particular positions where they're more versatile, or do you look for, you can't look for all catchers or all pitchers and things like that.
Correct.
So what type of kids where do they usually play?
Pitching and catching are completely separate. You can't make anybody into a pitcher. You can't make anybody into a catcher. So those two positions are very specific. Other than that, your shortstops, your middle infielders, your center fielders are usually the kids that you're looking at. Now, it depends again what type of style you're looking for, or what are you looking, to add to your program. Are you looking for a big bat? Or are you looking for speed? So that plays a big role. And what type of style do you prefer as a coach? Again, I'm more of an athletic, fast-paced team, so that I look for the more athletic, quick kid. Now, will I take a kid who's slow but hits the ball a million miles? Absolutely.
Now, how about everyone always talks about financial things at the college level, which is, money at college is not cheap these days. Is there financial packages? Is there scholarships? Is there any type of monies that the colleges offer kids for softball, or they don't offer anything in softball? So
Division I offers up to you're allowed up to 12 full rides. Now, not all Division I's have that. So those are questions that you need to ask when you're on campus, or when you're able to speak to the coach. Is how many are you fully funded? Fully funded is 12 scholarships. We here at Hampton are fully funded, so we do have 12 scholarships. So we have just as much money to give as an UCLA. But how is that money distributed? It depends. There's so many factors involved. Academics, personality. Then you get into athletic ability, and then you get into financial needs. So, we try to factor all of those things when we're making an offer.
Yeah, and kids, how do they come and find the school? Is it do they do official visits? Can they just show up one day and just look around the campus? How does that work?
Both of those things. Now, usually official visits a coach is really interested and is ready to get ready to offer you. And now those have changed. Again, all of the softball has changed and evolved so much. It's been fantastic with our sport. But the recruiting process used to be so young, starting in 7th and 8th grade. And so it's now changed, where a coach is not allowed to talk to you at all until September 1 of your junior year. No communications at all before that. So if a kid is a sophomore and they're on campus, I'm not allowed to talk to them.
But they're allowed to come and visit the school.
They can come and visit the school and check it out, and they want to watch a practice, see how things go. Absolutely.
Okay, and then after September 1, can you make as many phone calls as you want, or talk to the student as long, or what?
Yep. So So just an example. I told you I have 4 kids. My daughter, this rule just changed, and my daughter was a junior going into this summer, and this was the first time that rule was in place. And at midnight of September 1. She literally got a call, and I'm not kidding you. So it's a different world, and like I said, it just started. This rule just came about, so it's kind of new to everybody. But yeah, once September 1 hits, you can get as many calls as you want and desire.
Wow, that's pretty unique.
It is. It's different.
So now, competing against other schools, it must be very difficult as well. What are some of the colleges that you're competing against in softball at Hampton University?
Well, going from the MEAC to the Big South now, we're still competing against our MEAC foes. And now we're competing against our Big South foes. So, you're looking at Radford and USC Upstate and Campbell. Liberty just left the Big South, but they're here in Virginia, so I'm competing against them. Right 10 minutes down the road, you got Norfolk State that I'm competing against, who's in the MEAC. We're competing against everybody in the state of Virginia, and definitely in the Big South and the MEAC.
And 56 games in the spring is quite a lot.
It is.
Plus, how many games in the NCAA tournament if you make it that far?
You start with your conference tournament, so that comes before the NCAA. So you got to win your conference tournament to get into the NCAAs. So, again, it depends. Do you go into the winner's bracket? Do you go into the loser's bracket? And then you got to fight out of it. So there's so many factors involved.
Wow. Well, we're coming
Yeah.
to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the students that are interested in going to play softball at the college level, maybe even want to come to Hampton University to play? What advice do you want to give to those parents and those students?
Well, first of all, I mean, being a parent also and I'm going through the same thing. So I see both sides, both perspectives. Enjoy it. I think nowadays, it's changed. I don't know how I would have done it had I grown up in this era. There's so much pressure and, everybody feels like they have to keep up with the Joneses and you don't. There's a place for everybody. I think you need to be realistic with your skill level, your education, and what you want out of the sport. So I think if I were to give advice, I mean, that would be the most important advice. And do your due diligence. Research the program, research the school. Don't just take anything that comes along. Know where you want to go. Do you want to be close to home? Do you want to be far away? Who are you? Know who you are and what you're wanting to get out of it. Make the education the most important part, not the softball part. Our society has turned things where it's become more of the athletic side than the academic side, and it's really sad to me. It's just changed so much, and I want the kids to love where they're going. And if they get hurt, they gotta remember it. Let's say they become medically discharged and they can no longer play. Do you love where you're going?
Great.
So
Well,
yeah.
thank you very much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.